Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates through Zoom. We were having issues with StreamYard, so we're going to record this, put it up on my YouTube channel, and you'll get the full effect of the Melissa Manchester that we know and love. So, Melissa, we were talking first of all, and I was admiring how beautiful your hair looks, and you were
Thank
telling
you.
the story behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. I donated it. I was on tour. I was at the Kennedy Center, actually. So glad I played there when I could. And something got in my heart, and I decided to donate about 10 inches of hair to Locks of Love. They use hair for to make wigs for cancer patients. And they didn't mind that my hair was red. And so as I cut it, I looked at the little silver coming through and I thought, hair as art. Let's try that. So I'm letting it grow out because I can, because I want to see what it does. I think white hair is so beautiful, and I'm on my way to white. It's very silvery, but it dries like this, so certain things don't change.
Well, you look wonderful, and I
Thank
love
you.
silver hair, so
Me too.
I've had it for a long time.
I know, yeah.
But you just did the national tour of Funny Girl,
Yes,
and we were talking about what the experience was of being in a show such as Funny Girl, as opposed to touring the country, doing your own show. You actually had a great time on the road.
I had a spectacular. They are very different, distant cousins, very distant cousins indeed. The rigor of a concert tour is really beyond words. Um, you show up, you go to the sound check, you do the show for 2 hours, then you leave and you go to the next place. With a tour, you're in each place at least for a week. So you can unpack and cook and look around and notice a local tree or a local bird and walk around and just get into the place. And sometimes you're there 2 weeks or 4 weeks. So that's very different. I kept describing my experience on tour as very luxurious, and my castmates thought I was nuts because the work is rigorous, you know. But still in all, just being able to sit in each place for a week was really, really beautiful. And it was great. The tour was wonderful. The show was gorgeous. I felt like an honored guest at a beautiful party.
That's incredible. What's a typical day like, or is there such a thing as a typical day when you're on the road doing a show? I mean, obviously, you have a routine that preps
I
you
do.
up to showtime. And then
Yeah.
what's your unwinding process as well?
Well, the typical day for this show, as opposed to my concerts, with my concerts, I'm virtually silent all day, and I drink a lot of water, and maybe I go for a walk, but I definitely go on the treadmill for 30 minutes at around 3:30, and then sound check is usually around 4:30, and then I have a bite, and then I vocalize and go on stage at 7 or 7:30. For this show, because I wasn't singing, I was hired to be an actor for the first time. I had lots of scenes, very little singing. I wouldn't call it dancing, but I moved a bit. But it was just different. I mean, I was never concerned with these muscles. My voice placement was very different. In order to to learn the dialogue for this show, I literally couldn't get it into my brain until I found my voice. And my voice was a, a, an amalgamation of my neighbors when I lived in the Bronx, overbearing fans,
Oh.
uh, aunties. Um, and so when I was Rose Bryce, this was my voice. I talk like this because from Brooklyn, it was talking about Fanny and as a businesswoman, a saloon keeper, and that was it. That's how the words got in because it was written almost in a patois, you know. The rhythm of the dialogue is so fantastic. The musicality of the dialogue. It's just the way my brain works. That's what I would always hear where the spaces were, where the
Did that
It
begin to seep into your offstage persona as well?
probably, I mean, my great fear is that I will break into Rose Bryce's voice while I'm singing Don't Cry Out Loud, which is never a good idea.
Well, if it happens, I'm going to stand up and cheer the loudest. I am so excited about seeing your new show. I want to talk
Yeah.
about the process of doing a show such as the one that you have coming up. 50 years, 50 threads throughout your life, and it's very autobiographical. It's a memoir, a living, breathing memoir on stage. How you've got such a body, and this is my phrase, body of worth. You've got such a body of worth behind you. Um, are you, I mean, obviously, your fans, there are certain songs that they want to hear, but I'm assuming, being Melissa Manchester, perhaps I'm wrong, that you are also going to treat us to some new songs as well.
Well, there are new old songs that I'll be including because they're part of the journey, and I think it would be short shrift if I didn't acknowledge that that younger seed of me who started writing and who started and who was so informed by the writers of my youth. You know, it's important to me anyway to acknowledge that music on commercial radio was beginning to become very different than the magnificent writers I had been raised listening to. So much of popular music still was coming off of the Broadway stages. And so you were listening to a lot of Rodgers and Hart recorded over and over again by different singers, Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, all of that. And then in the late 60s and early 70s, when singer-songwriters started to emerge as popular,
Hmm.
the shape of what a lyric was, the shape of a song started to shift. And I was so impressed by that wave of the Beatles and Paul Simon, who was my teacher at NYU, and Joni Mitchell and Laura Nyro, who became my muse.
Mm.
You know, that my early songs were so touched by that new air, you know. So so it's that.
Was there a particular moment in the trajectory of your life and career that you found what some may consider the Melissa Manchester voice?
Well, you mean physically my
Yeah.
voice?
Yeah, in terms of the sound of what you were presenting to your public.
Yeah. Well, I think I used to sing effortlessly. I used to sing in higher keys. I had a huge range, high and low. Um, my power seemed to be relentless. And I could sing these anthemic songs that I either wrote or were gifted by my extraordinarily talented friends. Um, and I can do some of that now, but my concern is I don't want to blow my voice out
Hmm.
because it's just an inch and a half of muscle. So you have to be cognizant of that. When I sang for the Working Girl, which I set Bernie Taupin's amazing lyrics to, it's a very powerful theatrical anthem. Each verse is a vignette, a separate vignette, and you can see me perform it on YouTube. Um, I don't know. I don't know that I would have the power to sing that style night after night. There are moments, of course, that I do, but you have to be very careful because I get really excited when I sing. It's a full body experience. It's very spiritual. I sing down to my fingertips. It's just the way it happens to me. But I just don't want to compromise the next day's performance. So you have to be thoughtful. about that. And also, there are songs that I sang that were orchestrated in an anthemic manner that I never heard that way. Don't Cry Out Loud, I always heard as a very quiet song.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when I went into the studio, in the 70s, and I really don't know if it was discussed with me because I was on the road so much in those days. I don't know if I missed a meeting or I was just bypassed. So when I went into the studio thinking this is going to be a gorgeous, quiet lullaby, the way I heard my gorgeous Peter Allen sing it originally, and there were 50 musicians just blasting, and and physically I could rise to the occasion and give that performance, which was a solid and good performance on my part, but it was never how I heard the song. And now, because I've outlived most of those folks, I do the song in the spirit with which I first heard it. And what happens is that the audience leans in. They keep waiting for the big thunder to show up, and it's not. It is that it is that message of hoping and learning how to cope and being at peace with it. Because sometimes when you learn how to cope, it comes after a great storm, and coping is the last thing you learn how to do. And
And
I
there's
always felt,
another layer to this as well. I mean, when you have a life well lived, the lyrics of these songs are being shaded by your life experiences as well.
100%. Yes, the songs have become living monologues to me. And I've learned so much singing those songs. I've lived so much that I've reflected into the songs. When I teach performance, I teach what I call the art of conversational singing.
Mhm.
And so I'm sure it's what many other teachers teach without giving it a name, but when you give a reason to start singing, a dramatic reason, a res a reason that becomes your first line is a response to something that just happened. It ignites focus, and that's what I hope I bring to the performances.
Doing a tour like Funny Girl, you've got
Hmm.
that schedule laid out. And
Hmm.
I had the scroll all scheduled on the StreamYard that we were on of all of your upcoming performances. And
Yes.
I'm going to find a way to get that all on YouTube.
Uh,
Because you have such a tour coming up. Um,
yeah.
do you have control over how that tour is put together, or do you have an agent or a manager that's doing that on your behalf? How does
Yeah,
it come together?
I have an agent and manager. I mean, the funny thing about all of these shows coming up is that they have been rescheduled 2 and 3 times because of Funny Girl. I just couldn't do them. So I'm very grateful that all the promoters waited and saved me a place in their busy schedules.
Well, I'm so excited. I'm going to be there on the 13th.
Thank
With
you.
I have two friends that are huge, huge, huge Melissa Manchester fans. But
Thank
then again,
you.
I say who isn't? Um, but they are so. When I found out, I called them and said, "Pick a night. You're going as my guest." They had tickets to see you when you were going to be at Queensborough College. And then because of COVID, that
Yes.
got canceled.
Yep.
Our mutual dear, dear friend Susan Egan isn't
Yeah.
there anymore, which am disappointed in. But I also have another shout out, and then I'm going to let you go. What is David Joseph designing for you?
Oh, he's designing two ensembles actually. And one is a dress, not a gown, but a beautiful ensemble. And the other is a suit. I just love him.
I do too. I do too.
I keep apologizing because I have opinions, and then I'll say, you may never want to talk to me again, but we have a good time.
Well, it's a mutual admiration society.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm very excited about, I was commissioned to write a concerto for piano and orchestra called Awake, and it's being debuted at the Corning Museum in Corning, New York, July 19th. So I'm coming in. It's for that orchestra has 40 pieces. So I'm very excited. And the great Jeffrey Beagle, who is the concert pianist who commissioned the piece, will be playing it. So I'm thrilled.
And this is very different from anything you've done before.
Oh my goodness. Yes. You know, yes. During COVID, I was scrolling, I don't know, and I saw this gorgeous piano playing, and the camera was right by the keyboard. And I thought, what is going on? And then when it was over, he would lean down and explain the piece. And apparently, he used to have salons with his colleagues. And because of COVID, he was now by himself. And I started to put in comments in the chat. And he said, "Are you the singer?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And we started texting back and forth. And I was backstage someplace putting on my eyelashes. And he said, "Would you consider composing a concerto for piano and orchestra?" And I thought to myself, would I? And I said, yes. And I submitted the finished piece to Jeffrey 4 days before I got on a plane to start rehearsals for Funny Girl. It was wild,
That's a,
wild.
I've got one last question I want to ask you. I mean, the whole world essentially pretty much stopped when COVID, and the last time you and I spoke was actually in the midst of COVID. And, coming out of that, going back into live performing again, what was that experience like the first time you got on a stage
Oh my gosh.
after
It
everything
was,
shut down?
yeah, it was very strange. First of all, I was the only one in the venue not wearing a mask. And in that beautiful venue, not far from here, Thousand Oaks Civic Center, an enormous theater. But because everybody had to sit 6 feet from each other, gloved and masked, and the seats in between were saran wrapped, so the sound was very muted, and there was only a quarter of a theater full. Um, Everybody was very grateful to be back in community, and there I realized that's what was the the biggest anguish of this is being out of community. But
Yeah,
it was very strange. I mean, I still performed the way I performed, but it was sort of it was just odd. It was odd, but
well, let's pray, number one, that we never go through anything like that again.
amen.
And
Amen.
let's also pray that the Kennedy Center comes back into our hands.
Well, I'm so grateful that I performed there several times with Funny Girl for 3 weeks or a month, and it was incredible. It was like being on Broadway. It was so thrilling. And what's happening now? Good luck.
Hmm.
The
Well,
the ego, the ego of these boys.
I
The
know.
ego of these boys is so fragile and silly and dangerous and perverted. And they have not had the experience of understanding compassion
Empathy.
and
Empathy.
empathy.
Yes.
And so they just live behind gigantic walls and want to keep everybody out.
Well, Melissa, I could go on for hours talking with you because I love you so much. Not wait to see you in a couple of weeks. And
You too.
uh, I want to thank you for fitting me into your schedule to do this. And I'm going
My
to
pleasure.
on you too.
Thank you for getting on Zoom. I,
Thank
I
you.
so apologize,
Anything
but
for you, I'll do it.
you're a doll. All right,
Thank
I'll see
you.
you soon.
You too. See you.
Bye, Annie.